I was actually talking to my dad about that the other day, which is really cool that I can talk to my dad, that he's still alive. You know, he's 87 years old, and I was just going to tell him, I says, Dad, I says, you know, I'm not even thinking about Panama or anything else. I just retirement is awesome. When you can get up in the morning and do whatever the heck you want to do, and you don't have any of these obligations to deal with, it's really a good thing. Hi, I'm Keith Kinklar. I just retired from Utah in the United States. Before moving to Utah, I grew up in Ohio. So I always knew I've been in a very deep snow environments all my life. And I always knew when I was going to be ready to retire that I wanted to be in a place where, like Jackie says, you don't need heating or air conditioning. So I started researching, locations like that. They're very far and few between in the States. And Panama just kept coming up on the radar. So I scheduled a tour with Jackie. That was last June. And my plans were not to retire for another 5 to 7 years. But after taking the tour, I decided when I got back to the States, I was going to pull all the stops and make it happen as soon as I could. So I went back and notified my place of employment, which was Brighton Ski Resort in Utah, and told them I would finish out this season. But I got into this season a few weeks, and all I could think about was Panama. And so I just bumped it all up, told them I was leaving, right at the end of the last year then. And so that's why I'm here now. The tour was great. I highly recommend the tour to anybody thinking about, moving here. Um, the information that Jackie provides is spot on. I think it made the process for me, well, like you say, I mean, I just up and decided I was going to do at the last minute, okay, I'm going. But I had everything prepared because of the things that Jackie, taught me, through the guide and the tour. And yeah, so I highly recommend the tour. I was leaning towards Boquete before I took the tour. And then, once I did take the tour, because we started out along the beach areas and that, and the beaches aren't for me. But when I got here to the mountains, I saw Los Naranjos and fell in love with that. And so that's when I made the decision. It's like, okay, I want to be in this area. I didn't want to live in town anywhere. So again, this place is perfect for me. I'm surrounded, by Spanish-speaking people. I don't speak Spanish. I mean, I'm just learning it right now. But they are amazingly accommodating. So this place was a bed and breakfast, or an Airbnb. And I was just doing a search because I needed to find a place to, stay temporarily, and that was my plan, to actually be here about a month and a half, and and then find something else. But yeah, I saw a listing for it was the Boquete Nature Bungalow #2, and it was billed as a tiny house, which it is. And that's something I was also interested in because I was considering, eventually building one after I move here. So I said, okay, I'll try living in a tiny house and see how I like it. And it turns out I like it very much. This place is perfect for me. And I was actually considering making an offer to the owners to, stay here on a more permanent basis. And they had been hearing and, talking to me and knew how much I liked it. And they made the exact offer to me that I was going to make to them. So I jumped on it, and yeah, so now I'm here indefinitely now. The offer they made to me was $600 a month. This is a duplex. The upper unit is actually still an Airbnb, so that's available if somebody would like to stay there. And it's great to have some English-speaking people once in a while come around, although it's not a requirement for me. I'm doing fine without it. That includes all utilities other than the propane. The propane is just, a little too difficult to, as with me buying the propane, they don't have to worry about coming and changing tanks and that kind of thing. And propane, I haven't bought any yet, but I was told it's only about $5 a tank. So, internet is amazingly fast. It's better than the internet I had in Utah. I can stream a movie without any pauses whatsoever. So it suits me well. I've got one room that's a bedroom. Originally, there was a hide-a-bed set up in there that virtually took up the entire room. But I don't sleep in a bed, I sleep in a recliner. So I've moved that out, and it becomes a couch. And then, I've got the other room, which is the kitchen and kind of the living area, and of course a bathroom. One of my intentions when I came to Panama was to hire a Panamanian woman to help me cook, shop, help me with my Spanish, those types of things. And pretty much anything I ask her to do, she helps me with. So I was looking for a recliner. I had already hired her. So I took her with me to David, and we started looking for recliners, and the first ones I was seeing were pretty much comparably priced to what you would find in the U.S. $700-800 for a recliner. I was like, okay, I'll go ahead and pay that, But she said no, that's too expensive. And she found a furniture store where I was able to get, this is an electric recliner, so it's infinitely adjustable, and it was $400. As far as getting a visa, it was, to me, amazingly easy. I had an appointment set up with my immigration attorney for like 2 days after I was supposed to arrive in Panama, but my flights got changed around, and I ended up arriving in David, where he is located, the same day that I was supposed to have the appointment. And I was a little concerned about that, as whether the timing was going to work. And he said, no problem, just when you get off the plane, just come on down to the office. And, so I went down, do all the paperwork. He said it would take about 10 days to get my temporary visa. He was spot on that. 10 days later, I was down there picking up my temporary visa. And now I'm, waiting for the permanent one to begin. I originally wasn't going to be too concerned about a driver's license, but when I got here, it became clear, because I like to explore the areas I live in, and it's just too difficult to do that with the public transportation. So I decided to buy a motorcycle. So the motorcycle, that's another interesting story. While I was in David actually picking up my temporary visa, that's when I decide, okay, I'm going to go look for a motorcycle. So I just found a place on Google Maps that was close to where I was staying. Took a walk over there, went in, and got lucky because none of the salespeople spoke any English, but just happened to be a guy who was in the store who was actually from Boquete, and he was bilingual, and he saw what I was trying to do, and he helped me make the purchase, which was awesome. And then the salesman brought up a picture of the bike that I purchased on a computer screen. When I first saw the picture, I'm looking like, And I'm thinking in my head, you know, again, U.S. prices, thinking this thing's going to cost me 12 grand, you know. So he's showing me, you know, all kinds of things just on the computer about the bike. And then I finally, you know, I ask him, you know, quanto, how much? And he tells me $2,350. Every time I bought a motorcycle, I'd put another $2,000 into it to make it the way I want to. This one, there's nothing I need to do to it. And it cost me a little bit more than my phone. And it's really nice to see, you know, like I say, I go over and I help the neighbor once in a while, you know, building his place over there. And it's good to see Panamanian construction techniques because they're nothing like what we do in the States. And I think you end up with a much better construction than you would get in the States. You know, a place like this is going to last forever, and all you're going to have to do is paint it once in a while. You know, that's not going to happen with a wood construction. This is where I can get my propane. Okay. One day I was over here, and there was a guy in front of me, and he was literally, I mean, he was doing his grocery shopping here. He had a big, you know, grain sack that he was filling. I mean, she was putting chickens in there, like 5 chickens in there. And, I mean, he was doing all of his grocery shopping here. Yeah, I do want to mention that none of this would be possible if it weren't for my late wife, Tammy. I'm not old enough to claim my own Social Security, but I am allowed to claim hers starting at age 60, which I am, and it turned out that her Social Security was enough that I was able to get the pensionado visa. So I thank her every day for making this possible, and you know, that's one of the things is just, you know, always comes to mind is a song from Pink Floyd, Wish You Were Here, because I know she would love it here. Yeah, so driving around the area, I'm living on the Jaramillo side of Boquete. The roads are very narrow and windy. To tell you the truth, I would be scared to death to drive a car. And again, that's one of the reasons I chose a motorcycle. I'm used to driving motorcycles, and it's turned out to be a good decision because, yeah, coming around those turns, and most cars coming the other way are not on their side of the road. They're in the middle of the road. And it's a lot easier to avoid them on a motorcycle than it would be in another vehicle. Yeah, so as far as grocery shopping goes, when I first got here, I was just walking to town, um, which is actually, it's a very enjoyable walk. Oh, about 300 meters from where I live here, there's a staircase that goes all the way down to town, which is a very charming walk. As you get lower and closer to town, there are homes built all along the staircase. I have no idea how they got their building materials up there because there's no roads anywhere near it. But it's a, you know, it's a 15-minute walk down to town, and I'm a hiker. You know, I used to do a lot of backcountry skiing in Utah, where I was climbing mountains to do skiing. You know, not using ski lifts, but going outside the resorts. And so I enjoy the walk back up from there also. Most people walk down and then will take a cab to come back up. But as long as I'm not carrying a bunch of groceries or whatever, I'll make the walk back up. Right there on that turn, it's actually covered. It's covered about 2/3 of the way. I call the staircase my stairway to heaven because it's a very enjoyable walk. Again, as you get closer to town, you're walking right past a lot of homes. So you meet up with a lot of people as you're making the walk. And again, I mean, Panamanians are the best people I've ever met in my life, really. If you try to interact, they are more accommodating than anybody I've known. I can remember when I first moved to Utah, um, to get as many friends as I have now in Panama probably took me a year or so in Utah. In here, it's taken a month and a half. I know a lot of people in the neighborhood already. Can't speak well with them yet because I don't speak Spanish, but I'm planning to take some classes and I'm learning, and so that's working out. As far as challenges go, yeah, I mean the biggest one is the language. Siani, this is the woman that I hired. She's Spanish speaking only. She's actually picking up English pretty well from me, better than I'm picking up the Spanish from her. But it's working out pretty well. We use Google Translate a lot, when we can't understand what each other's saying, and that helps. And you learn from that too. She comes here 3 days a week. She cooks for me. She helps me with my Spanish. She helps me with many other things. She helped me open up a Panamanian bank account, and I've heard horror stories about opening a bank account here, and having to sit in the bank for 4 or 5 hours to do it. She made some phone calls, actually found a person in the bank that spoke pretty good English. One of the reasons I love this place, at first is I love the neighborhood. I love my neighbors. My neighbor right next door is actually the uncle of my landlord, and a lot of people in this area are related to my landlord. So that kind of gives me an in with a lot of people, because he tells them about me, and that helps a lot, kind of breaks the ice. Other than, the neighborhood and the people that I live around, is the wildlife that is here. I've got agoutis. That's like they refer to it as a mountain rabbit. Okay. We've Momo is this beautiful bird that has a really unique tail feather. Possums, armadillos, kinkajou, coaties. Let's see, just all kinds of beautiful birds, and that suits me fine because I've always been fascinated with the natural world. Insects. I mean, I've seen spiders the size of my hand, which to me is really cool. For other people that might be a problem, but I like that. Scorpions. I've had, scorpions in the house. That's, not so cool with me, but I've done some work with the weather stripping and pretty much eliminated that problem. Saw a really interesting bug that's maybe about 2 inches long that had glowing eyes. I don't know if it was actually the eyes, but it looked like it was eyes, like a lightning bug, that same glow as a lightning bug, which is very interesting. I still haven't been able to figure out what that bug actually is. One other thing that I've found really amazing is that everywhere I've been in Panama, I have not seen a single mosquito yet. Now, Siani tells me that'll change in the rainy season, but still, where I come from, you're dealing with mosquitoes all year long, other than when it starts snowing. So here, the rainy season is their winter, actually. And I'm looking forward to the rainy season, actually, because I'm sure everything's going to be different, and much greener, even though it's green and lush, even in the summer. You know. Yeah, another thing that I love about this place is the flora and fauna in the area. Um, I have bananas, papayas, mango, naranja. There's a plant out here, it's called a monka, and the the trunk of it is similar to bamboo, but my neighbor Ezekiel was telling me that you can make tea from it, and that it's good to drink, if you've got a cold or something like that. So Siani and I made some tea the other day, and now I'm making iced tea out of that all the time. And it's delicious.